Doctor, you've been a very prominent person in the BJP, a very responsible position as the State General Secretary of Karnataka. And we also see that you're working at the grassroots level. In this context, it was important to bring you on our show because 2 days back, that is on September 16th, the state of Karnataka passed the Freedom of Religion Bill. There seems to be some kind of an opposition from the Christian community and the church. First of all, Dr. Anil, I wanted to know what is your stand on the bill that was passed in the state of Karnataka?
Okay, first of all, I thank City Channel for inviting me for this uh, discussion. My stand is very clear. I want to make one point very clear. I am born as a Christian, and later, by faith, I know my faith. By faith, I'm a Christian, and I will die as a Christian. There's no doubt about it. My stand on this issue is it is Karnataka Protection of Right to Freedom of Religion Bill. A right to religious freedom is for all religion. Here, the bill doesn't specify any particular community in particular. When the other religion or the religious leaders are okay with this bill, they have no issues with it at all. I don't understand why the Christian religious leaders are opposing it. If the Christian term was there in this particular bill, then we could have opposed it. All of us could have togetherly opposed it. But this is a bill or a law enacted to protect each religion. The Constitution gives us the right to preach, propagate, and follow the religion. So, like that, every religion has the opportunity to preach, propagate, and follow the religion. Nobody is stopping them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, do you see that this is a sinister idea behind the opposition? I mean, this is not the first time it has happened, not just in Karnataka, in other states. I remember way back in 70s when Morarji Desai was the Prime Minister of India. There was a private bill that was introduced, and even at that time it was the Christian community which created a lot of noise about the anti-conversion law at the national level. So is there something larger which is pushing this whole agenda of opposing the anti-conversion law? That is first thing. Second thing is this: is it because the Christians are involved in the business of conversion that they're opposing it? Because the other religions are not opposing it, because there are the Sikhs, the Buddhists, the Jains, and Parsis who are also minorities. Why is the only the Christian community opposing it?
Correct. This kind of the familiar term, the anti-conversion bill, has been introduced in many states, right from so many decades. And we all know it was first introduced in Orissa, where it was the Congress government then. So all this halla about this bill being passed in so many other states, it has it has gone on quite smoothly. Maybe a little repercussions here and there, but when it was done in Karnataka, there was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of noise to it. First of all, we Christians in Karnataka should understand one thing, that this bill was formulated. It had gone to the law department. It was very beautifully framed by the then Congress government, I think in 2015-16, where three of our Christians were, one was a minister, another person was an MLA, the other person was the chief whip. All of them in the government, they had formulated this bill, and it had gone with the concurrence of the law department, and the chief minister Siddharamaiah had signed and kept the bill ready to be introduced in the house at an appropriate time. Something would have, made them not to do so. But when the bill was formulated, the Christian leaders knew about the entire episode, but then they were quite silent. It is quite surprising, quite surprising. So the same bill is being reintroduced with probably a little stringent punishment now by the BJP government, and it is passed by majority because Bharatiya Janata Party has have absolute majority in the upper house as well as the lower house, and even they formulated a government ordinance in between. Now that the BJP had a majority in the upper house, they have passed the bill, and now it is a law. So, as law abiding citizens, we Christians should abide with the law. If at all we have some objections to the different things in the law, we can always have a dialogue with the government, sit across the table, and discuss, what is good and what is not good, instead of waging a war against the government. This is my stand.
Thank you so much. In fact, picking up from this same conversation, I draw, since we both are from the Christian community, and I'm sure for the last 3 to 4 generations we've been practicing Christians, and we lived in this nation peacefully. One thing is very clear: it does not affect the existing Christian community, right? It does not affect unless a Christian wants to convert to another religion. So it does not affect the Christian community. That is one thing. Second thing is, even if you go back to the scriptures also, if you look at the birth of Jesus, during the birth of Jesus, there was a census that was called, and Mary and Joseph went all the way from Egypt to Bethlehem to comply to a census. They didn't even ask any question, right? They complied. Compliance was there. Likewise, if you look at another episode where Jesus was asked if he's paying the tax, he just complied. He said, please pay the tax, right? So, drawing inspiration from the Bible, if you look at it, it was mere compliance, and not protesting against a law which actually directly or indirectly does not affect them. In keeping that as a context, don't you think that this is pure hypocrisy of certain members who are opposing any bill that has been passed? I would want to draw your attention to the Citizenship Amendment Act, which was passed, and there was a huge ruckus, especially from the Christian community. What is your take on this?
Correct. See, Christians basically are a very peaceful, law abiding citizens. There is no doubt about that. See, when it comes to Christianity in India, many of them, many of the practicing Christians themselves don't know, when I question them, that Christianity exists in India right from the first century. We all know that St. Thomas the Apostle landed in Kerala, and from there things moved on. So Christianity is in India is nothing new. Christianity in India is right there right from the first century. So then, like the small kings then wholeheartedly welcomed this new religion into their fold, because the people who lived in India are basically very secular minded. They have a very inclusive mind. That is when Christianity came to India in the first century, it was welcomed, and they were given, enough of places. They were given infrastructure. They were given everything so that they can, peacefully and harmoniously live the rest of the nation. So down the line, coming down the line, what has crept into the community is, not good for the community. What I am trying to tell you is, like uh, the 1947 onwards, when we have a constitution, and when constitution is giving us the beautiful rights to propagate and preach and follow any religion. The question here is, when somebody wants to become a Christian, okay, and it should not be by any allurance or any other means. If if he wants to become a Christian, now the particular law gives them all the freedom to become a Christian, a practicing Christian. But the condition is he would have, come from a different caste. So he will be availing some benefits from there. So the government is very clear about it. Those benefits are meant for those people in that particular caste and community. You have to forego those things. And there's a particular procedure which has been given, and you need to follow that particular procedure and become a Christian. No one is stopping him. The government is not saying don't do it. But the conflict here is that you want to say that I'm a Christian and also not to forego those benefits meant for that particular caste from which they come from. This is where the conflict is. This is where the conflict is.
Okay, okay. So I was just listening to you, and you mentioned a very important point, which is allurement, which I have also observed. There is a lot of subtle compulsions that come in the society now, in the Christian community, which I have observed. For example, there is a very prominent Catholic club called the Catholic Club in Bangalore. Now, I know a couple of people who are members, who are Catholics, who are members in the club. Now, they have married non Christians. Now, see the disparity there. What I see the disparity is this: the person who is a Catholic has a certain kind of membership, and the same is not offered to his spouse because he or she is not a Christian. So, don't you see that as a subtle pressure for the spouse to convert? Because when the person is married, he is married with the intention of cohabiting with the person, and then they need to have the same rights and privileges. But don't you think that this is a subtle way of communicating to the spouse, saying that you need to convert? Likewise, another example, I know a lot of people who have married non Christians. Now, when they approach schools for the admissions of their children, what the schools have communicated to to the parents is this: since one of the parent is not a Christian, the child will not get the privileges of what the Christian, a normal Christian would get, because as per the constitution, the minorities are free to set up these religious institutions for the upliftment of of the community. So I feel that these are subtle communication in terms of an allurement, putting pressure on the family so that the spouse can convert. And now, when there is, I think, don't you think that this needs to be abolished or taken at a much stronger level?
See, now the one problem that I have seen is like minority institutions. To get a tag as a minority institutions, I think more than 50% of the students in an institution should be belong to a minority community.
Absolutely.
So, for example, uh, now Christian institutions, if they just go by only Christian students, they will lose the status. They will
Correct.
have to cater to the other minority communities too. Only then they will get the status of a minority
Minority.
institution. So this is a very important point that we all have to notice. And see, every club or church or let it be any institution is governed by certain rules. Whether it is right or not, we can probably debate. For example, we Christians, we belong to different denominations, and each denomination is governed by different rules and regulations, even though we all belong to the same Christ, so believe in the same Christ and same holy book, Bible. We have different rules and regulations that govern each church. For example, if the person doesn't belong to a particular denomination, he will not even be given a place in the cemetery to be buried. For example, in Kerala, the Jacobite and the Patriarch faction, they all come from the same root. They all come from the same root.
Absolutely,
But
yeah.
for the sake of some reason, for probably power, money, or whatever it is, they are fighting a long battle in the court. Long battle in the court, and finally the Supreme Court had to intervene and give its clarification or judgment finally. But still, it is so very difficult to implement those judgments even today. And crores and crores of rupees have been spent for the lawyers, and unnecessarily time has been spent. And both of them come from the same root. And we read in papers, we read in so many things, even for the sake of burial, the one faction is not accommodating the others. So, what Christianity are we talking about? What Christianity are we talking about? It is the same Jesus Christ that we all believe in. It is the same Bible that we all follow. But these rules are keeping us away. And, probably I go to an extent of saying, showing inhuman behavior to one another. The Christian spirit is lost.
Correct. So, if I can mention that it appears that Christianity has been made into a brand, a good franchisee where you don't have to pay royalty. It seems to be a good business proposition which is working effectively, and it appears that we need to rescue Jesus from the clutches of the church. Do you agree to that?
No, for that, like a lot of people have asked me this question. When our Baba Sahib Ambedkar, when he proclaimed that I am a born Hindu and I will not die as Hindu for reasons best known to him. But then, what I have read and heard is that many Christians have approached him. Similarly, other religious people also approached him.
Correct.
But he was very clear in his approach towards, like when he took up Buddhism. He was very clear, and he had made it very clear why he is not accepting Christianity, why he is not accepting Islam. He made it very clear.
Yeah.
So Christianity, from the clutches of being churchianity and becoming real followers of Christ, is what he propagated. Probably we have to also move forward, becoming real followers of Christ.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that clarity what you gave us. Now, continuing on the same topic, there is a very one thing what we heard was very disturbing was the passing of the Citizenship Amendment Act, which actually was pro-Christians, especially catering to those Christians who were persecuted in Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. Because I remember as a child and growing up in the church that we pray every day, and especially during the Easter time, for these persecuted Christians so that they can be rescued. Now, what I felt shocking was that when the BJP government, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, introduced and passed the Act of Citizenship Amendment Act, which included even the Christians, the church was the one which actually came up and opposed it. Now, two things I want to place in front of you. One is the church leaders who opposed it, majority of them being Catholics, the bishops and the priests. They are not political leaders. First thing. Second thing is they are religious leaders, and most important is that these people are not appointed democratically. They've been appointed by the Vatican. In such a situation, don't you think that one is they were anti-Christian because they were not allowing the Christians who were persecuted in other nations to come to this nation? And second thing is this: what example are they setting to the rest of the community?
Yeah, that's a very important topic. See, CA and NRC was brought into as a law to rescue the persecuted people in the neighboring rogue nations. When India got independence in 1947, it was done on religious basis. We all know it. and
Absolutely, yes.
probably the Pakistan becoming an Islamic state, and India was, as I said, right from first century onwards, were quite secular. We all were accommodated. Even Islam came to India, to the Kerala shores, after 600 years of Christianity coming into existence in India. They were also welcomed by the same natives here. So they were very inclusive. They welcomed everyone who came to them for help, including the Jews. When before
Yes, yes.
the state of Israel was formed, probably Jews also, plenty of them stayed in Kerala and in the coastal belt, and we all know that. So people basically in this region or our Hindustan are basically inclusive. So we should understand the politics behind it. When the government of India has taken up such a big measure to accommodate the persecuted people of the neighboring states, particularly Christians, the Sikhs, the Jains, the Buddhists, and the Parsis, the other countries being Islamic, we have a notion that an Islamic country cannot persecute Muslims. So we have seen with our own eyes that the Christians, the Sikhs, the Jains being persecuted, and when such Christians have been being welcomed to our country and given immediate citizenship, I don't understand the politics behind such a big move of the church opposing such an amendment act. The Pakistan cricketer, I still remember, Yusuf Yuhana, he was a Christian.
Correct. Yes,
Probably before he becoming the captain of Pakistan, he was a Christian. He was a Christian. Yusuf Yuhana, he was a
yes, yes.
practicing Christian. And probably later, what I found out was then he became a Muslim. And then only that he was made the captain of Pakistan. And then his entire attire and the entire look changed. And probably I want to ask the questions to the Christian leaders of any denomination in this country. Do you accept all these things? Do you accept such changes? Do you accept such persecutions in the other countries? Because what we have seen in Syria or like in many nations where it was Christian majority then, how the geographic changes that has occurred, we all know it from history. So I don't understand. Till today, I am trying to understand why the Christian religious leaders of any denomination are voicing against CA NRC, which is giving protection to the persecuted Christians of the neighboring rogue nations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your clarity, and I'm sure you will carry this message to the Christian community whom you interact with, because you are in a position to interact with them. Uh, while you spoke about Yusuf Yohanan, I remember when Yusuf Yohanan had come to Bangalore to play cricket, he was pompously brought to our church because he wanted to know which is the nearest church to attend mass. And he came to our church to attend mass, and the priest, the Catholic priest, had made such a pomp and show about a Pakistani Christian coming to Bangalore, playing cricket, and then coming and attending mass. But we saw the subtle way of how he might have been pressurized, though he was a very good player, to become a captain. He had to trade off the religion. So that is something which immediately stuck to my mind. The next thing which we wanted to talk was in the minority department, including the minority morcha, because you are the state general secretary of the BJP, in the minority morcha, do you see adequate representation of all the minorities, or there seems to be one-sided leaning? Because I've seen a lot of such reports coming out, because it appears that one community is eating out all the resources and the representation. What is your understanding on this?
First of all, Mr. Jerome, I want to make one thing very clear. I got into politics accidentally. None of the family members are politicians in my family. I was born in a lower middle class family. I was looking out for my bread and butter, and somehow God made me a dentist. I am doing good serving the society with whatever best I can. But politics was something very new to me. And in 2005 6 is when something triggered. And probably I will describe that incident at a later stage. But then, when I got a chance to get into politics, and I said, okay, let me try my hand because uh, Christians in politics are very few because Christians treats politics or politicians as the saying goes that the last resort for scoundrels. Then I thought I am not a scoundrel. I am a dentist by profession. I have come up the hard way, and let me check out why they treat politicians very badly. That is when I got into politics, and like step by step, when I go ahead and I became the state general secretary, I had the chance of interacting with a wide range of government organizations, government departments, and things like that. And when I walk into each department, see, minorities directorate has got about 8 wings in them: the Karnataka Minorities Development Corporation, the Minorities Commission, the Hajj, the Waqf, and similarly. See, certain things the Christians or the other minorities have no access to it. So we can only get into the Minorities Directorate. We can just step into the Karnataka Minorities Development Corporation. We can probably step into the Minority Commission. But when I noticed all the boards behind the chairman, where each chairman is nominated by the government, I could not find a single Christian till date in any of these departments as chairman.
Okay.
Then I asked the government, what is the problem here? Why the other minorities are not given a representation adequately? Why a Christian is not made the Minority Commission chairperson? Why a Christian is not made Karnataka Minorities Development Corporation chairperson? Why, at least at the district level, when you go to the district minority office, even there you will not find any Christian anywhere, not even a director, not even at the district level. So I always tell Christians during the meetings, you will not even find a Christian to broom the minority department offices. You will not even find a Christian to broom the minority department offices. And why is this pathetic state for the Christians? We boast about Christian institutions and all of them studying in Catholic institutions, Christian institutions, becoming officers and their rulers. And why can't our own children, why can't the Christians get into the executive job? Why there are no Christians as tahsildars? Why there are no Christian police officers? Why there are very few Christian case officers? Why there are few IAS officers? Whenever I go to each and every church or whichever denomination they claim that they are very strong, I ask them, how many executive officers or a person with a green ink pen in his pocket in your church? This is the basic question I ask every church, every religious leader. So, Christians are not there in executive posts because of the system that we are in. We are in such a system that probably we are getting cornered and getting out of the mainstream. And, probably we are meant to be ruled in the future. We are meant to be ruled. I am again specifying the term. We are meant to be ruled again and again. So I have given representation to the government and I have requested that any posting, let it be Minority Commission or let it be Karnataka Minority Development Corporation, it has to be on a rotation system. If once a Muslim becomes a Minority Commission chairperson, the next time a Christian has to be given the chance. The third time, probably let it go to a Jain, let it go to a Buddhist, let it go to a Parsi, let it go to a Sikh. We have no issues. But this has to happen because we have been bracketed in as minorities, probably because of government orders. But again, I want to make a point here. Probably a lot of things are going on in the Supreme Court nowadays. Probably they're trying to define the term minority. Probably minority is a misnomer, according to me. Probably in Nagaland, Meghalaya, and Manipur, if you go, Christians are not minorities there. 80 to 90% are Christians. There the Hindus are minorities. So when you come to Karnataka, we are about 6.5 crores Kannadigas here. And probably after the Dalits, the next largest populated community is the Muslims. They are about a crore plus. The third comes the Lingayas, the fourth comes the Vokaligas. And similarly, and according to the government 2011 census, we Christians are only about 11.44 lakhs. 44 lakhs. So out of 6.5 crores Kannadigas, if 1 crore are Muslims, how are they minorities? And when the government formulate the fund allocation during the budget, if so, probably say about say 3,000 crores has been allocated to the minorities, we should understand 80% of the funds goes to the Muslims alone. 10% goes to the Christians. The other 10% are distributed among the Sikhs, the Jains, the Parsis, and the Buddhists. So what is this 10%? So this is, like it's undercover. This is undercover. Christians, boast, like this particular government or that particular government has given us 3,000 crores. But they should understand that 80% of the funds goes to the Muslims and it's only 10% that comes to you, whether it is scholarship, whether it is any facility, that you get 10% of that funds. And that is not enough. So again, I am stressing that point. The government, according to 2011 census, we Christians are only 11.44 lakhs. And you can go to any religious leaders of any denomination who, have different meetings or different proclamations about all these issues. They need to take up the right issues for the betterment of the community. They are taking up the wrong issues for political reasons. They have to leave this politics aside, leave the unnecessary topics aside, and take up the real issues and try to understand the socio-economic status of Christians all across. First of all, I say all across India, because the Christians in Jammu Kashmir, the Christians in Punjab, the Christians in Uttarakhand, UP, and Bihar are something different. So when you come to Christians in Goa, they are different. Christians in Kerala have different problems. Christians in Tamil Nadu have different issues. Christians in Telangana and Andhra have different issues. When we come to Karnataka, the religious leaders and the political leaders have to prioritize their issues and see that the socio-economic status of Christians are uplifted, which is not occurring. We are, being sidelined, and our socio-economic is so pathetic. Most of the Christian houses, like the girls becoming primary school teachers or primary health center nurses, and others. What are the men folk doing? They are either stewards or musicians or like tinkers, painters, doing all odd jobs. How many lawyers are there like you? How many dentists are there like me? Or how many the other professionals? How many of them are there? A handful. The majority of them, lakhs of them, the socio-economic status is so poor. They are, literally. I can't say, like, I can just say it is very pathetic. So we have to prioritize and focus on the major issues that the community is undergoing. And instead of that, the politics is taking over, which is very bad for the community.
This is a very shocking, very revealing data what you shared with us. Uh, just adding to this, because we only see the Christian leaders raising voices on these policies. But if you look at it, the church in India is probably the second or the third largest owner of land. So much of land at its disposal. I am sure if this property can be used for the benefit of the society, a lot of good things would happen with if they could coordinate with the government. Don't you think so?
See, the vast majority of Christian leaders, whether it is religious or political, they have made use of land for the welfare of the society. There is no doubt about it. But a handful of different denomination churches who have thousands of acres of property, probably you go to any city, any town, the major properties there belongs to the Christians. And What's happening to those properties? Either it has been leased out for 90 years, it is leased out for 60 years, it is leased out now for 30 years, and many of the properties have been sold. Many of properties have been sold. And who have done it? It is not the organizations or the political parties that they mentioned. It is their own people who have swindled. It is their own religious leaders. It is their own religious leaders who have, uh, leading the community have swindled crores and crores of properties which are supposed to be, for the welfare and development of the Christian community, or at least their denomination, which is not occurring, which is a very pathetic and shocking sight that we have to see with our own eyes. It's been swindled and swindled, and people are raising their voice, but they're all subdued. Probably we have seen in different courts that so many religious leaders, so many bishops have been arrested in Andhra, and like in so many places, they have been arrested and put behind bars for swindling their own property instead of using that property for the betterment of their own community. They have been swindling and making merry and becoming richer by crores and crores.
What a sad situation, as we mentioned, religion being made into a business. My next question, which we thought we could discuss, is this. See, the doctor, what we saw is this. There has been a certain amount of measures that has been taken in terms of foreign funding of the churches. The FCRA curbs is what I was mentioning. Do you think that that has actually reduced foreign intervention into our sovereign nation?
See, I'm not much aware of these things, but still, what I have my understanding is probably when funds come for a particular reason, that funds has to be utilized for that particular reason only. So the government is aware of the funds that is incoming and which is being utilized for a particular reason. And when the government asks for accounts, it is our bound, it is
Duty.
we are duty bound to give them a very clear understanding of those accounts to the government. It is our duty. When funds come, we have to account it and give a very clear statement. Let us be transparent. Once there is transparency in all these things, probably there should not be any problem. That is my understanding.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was very interesting and very heartwarming information what you gave us. We wanted to close the conversation, but there's something that I wanted to ask when we come to the end of the conversation. Um, there is a lot of scaremongering that has happened about the RSS among the Christian community. Have you had any experience of this sort?
I always describe this kind of fear mongering. I tell them it's like the five blind men describing an elephant. A person or the tail, he has his own way of expressing things. Me being part of the Bharatiya Janata Party from about 8 years, and I've been involving in all the activities of the Sangh, like wherever, like I've been given a chance. I have not found anybody, hating me or anybody looking at me at a different way. Nothing like that. Because what the Bharatiya Janata Party and the leaders from the Sangh tell me is, Anil Thomas is a good Christian. We would like to see you remain as a good Christian, and you have to grow as a good Christian, because our nation is a very plural one. We all have to live like flowers of, a different flowers in a garden. So they have been encouraging me to an extent. Like once I would like to quote an incident about which happened about three and a half years back. Like Rajesh ji was our pracharak at Mysore, and one particular evening, Rajesh ji called me up and said, Doctor, I have not visited a church till date, and I have to talk to a Christian priest for my better understanding. I said, just give me a time till tomorrow morning. I'll fix up an appointment. And I, in fact, was very surprised that I called up a lot of Catholic priests, a lot of CSI priests, a lot of Pentecostal people, and most were willing. They all said. Then I narrowed it down to one CSI church, Yesu Kripalia at Mysore. And the next day, the appointment was fixed at 5 o'clock. And in fact, I went with two of my Christian karyakartas to the RSS headquarters. I invited the pracharak, which was the appointment was already taken. Then we went to the Yesu Kripalia church at Mysore, and we sat in front of the altar, and there was a lot of beautiful exchanges that occurred. And I explained to the priest who a pracharak is, and the priest was explaining to the pracharak why I am a Christian father, and in fact, both exchanged their views with whatever responsibilities that they have. And ultimately, it was just after the Rakhi Haba, uh, Rakhi Haba, that this happened, and the Rajesh ji, our pracharak, said, "Naan nimige, I want to tie a Rakhi on your hand." The priest, his name is Reverend Johnson Paul, he immediately gave his hand, and a Rakhi was tied. Both of them hugged with each other, and it was such a lovely sight. And Rajesh ji, in fact, told the priest, Reverend Johnson Aya, said, if a doctor had not joined the BJP, if Dr. Anil Thomas had not involved in the activities along with us, I would not have that confidence to confide him or request him with this kind of a request. And he made it possible within 24 hours of time that I gave him this task. And in fact, I was also very happy when Rajesh ji made this point, and he said, and ನನ್ನ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ಹೊಸ ಅನುಭವ, like Anil Thomas, you need to act, or you need to take up the role of a bridge between two different propositions. Probably you can act as a bridge in the future. Probably it will do a lot of good to the community as well as our nation. That was his final comments.
I'm sure that this experience and this testimony, in a Christian, in the Christian way, it says a testimony. You've given a testimony here, and this will go a long way in clearing the veil from on the Christian point of view, because there's a lot of misunderstanding which has been propagated by sinister and vested interests, and I'm sure this
No,
experience actually will remove that dark veil.
in fact, I request our Christian, particularly religious leaders, I request them to create stages or create an ambience so that there is a dialogue. We can have a dialogue, and whatever is there inside you, please ask and clear it off. Probably both sides have a lot of misconceptions. Can
Exceptions,
be
yes.
cleared only dialogue when we start interacting with each other on a regular basis. When we keep somebody aside and not interact, all these misconceptions will keep on, like overflowing. In fact, overflowing. One last thing I would like to point here is Christians in Karnataka state. We all know that we all have been put into different categories, like category 1, category 2A, category 2B, 3A, 3B, and Christians have been included in category 3B, 3B,
Okay.
where, in 3B, Veerashevas are there, the Marathas are there, the Bans are there. Okay. I don't understand even today why Christians have been put in 3B category. Okay. And the converted Christians from the Dalits, they have been included in category 1. So
Okay.
who has made all these categories, and for on what basis have they made all these categories, is one thing which the Christian political leaders and the think tank among the Christians have to come together and think why we have been put in 3B category is one thing. 2015, when the Siddhamaya government was in power again, like how the anti-conversion bill has been proposed, Similarly, a caste census was undertaken. A caste census was undertaken by the Congress government. Again, our three political leaders were there in Congress then. I mean, all these things were formulated. They were aware of these things. And according to that particular caste census, column number 231, column number 231, it says Christian. And then 232 onwards, it goes on like this: Andhra Christian, Dravida Christian, Karnataka Christian, Akkasaliga Christian, Banajiga Christian, Banjara Christian, Barikar Christian, Bestru Christian, Brahmin Christian, Baduga Jangama Christian. It goes on and on. Even it goes and says Vokkaliga Christian, Lingayat Christian, Brahmin Christian. I don't understand how the government could come with such a nonsense. Like why this was created. And it says here, SC converted to Christianity is column number 268. Even there's another column called Syrian Christian, like column number 265. So Christians are generally there in 231. Column number 231 is Christian. Column number 268 is SC converted to Christianity. And 265 as Syrian Christians. What was the necessity for the Siddaramaiah government, with the three of our Christian political leaders being in Congress, to bring out this caste census? I don't understand. Recently, I was going through the newspaper. Some Banjiga Christian Association is being formed in Bangalore. Banjiga Christian Association. So that means we are trying to, whether it is Basavanna, whether it is Sri Narayana Guru, whether it is anybody, any social reformers, trying to remove the caste system from the society, trying to make the society more progressive, we, getting the caste system into Christianity and create more and more problems, and each one trying to outnumber the other or outsmart the other. Why the caste system is brought into Christianity? I don't understand this. When we are becoming more and more progressive and trying to eradicate the caste system all over the world.
So, do you think that this is a kind of a divisive politics of the erstwhile government?
Absolutely, there is no doubt. The day that the Christians realize the ploy, then come united as Christians, because all our civic rights are the same. You need a burial ground? Yes, you too require a burial ground. I too require a burial ground. No, our civic rights are the same. You require an educational loan? I too require one. I want to start a business, you want loan? Yeah, I too need one. You too need one. So all our basic necessities are same. Basic necessities are same. When Narendra Modi government is bringing out and saying Sabka Sath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Prayas, and bringing out 300, 400 different policies or schemes for the benefit of the entire society, the last person in the society also should be benefited. Why you divide the society on caste basis? What are these Christian religious leaders doing? Why can't they understand this ploy of dividing Christians into caste system, Golla Christian, Okaliga Christian, and fight in the Hoblis? And because like both of them become Roman Catholics or both of them become Christians, but still the caste mentality has not gone. And at the village level, at the Hobli level, they fight on caste basis, and finally it will become Christians big problem, and it will finally become BBC News.
Absolutely. Very good thoughts. Very good information you shared with us. Really happy that we had this conversation, and we look forward towards another round of discussion sometime later. But you shared amazing insights, and I'm sure it will it will trigger a lot of thoughts among the members of the Christian community. And I wish you all the best in the future, Dr. Anil Thomas.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and pranams mai. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Chitti Media. We look forward towards your patronage. If you like this episode, please do share, like, and press the notification button so that you will get updates in the future. Thank you so much once again.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.